This episode of EMS One-Stop is brought to you by Lexapol, the experts in policy, training, wellness support and grants assistance for first responders and government leaders. To learn more, visit lexapol.com. That's Lexipol.com. Hello and welcome back to another edition of EMS One-Stop. I'm your host, Rob Lawrence. We're starting to get ready for the great conference that is Pinnacle, which takes place this year from August the 12th to the 16th. At Marco Island in Florida. And one of the great things about Pinnacle is we get a chance to meet the Jack Stout Fellow. And to help me have that discussion today, I've got my guests Todd Stout, there's a clue in the name, Mike Taigman, and Mary Meeks, who we will introduce in a second formally. So thank you for joining me. And the Jack Stout Fellowship, Todd, tell us all about it.
Well, my dad died in 2020 and spent most of his life and career working in EMS, trying to make systems better, make patient care work better in the country, had a huge impact. And after he died, Fitch approached us with the idea of creating a fellowship that would allow us to pass along his ideas and evolution of his ideas to other people in the EMS industry.
So many of us have followed the work, the thoughts, the writings of your father, and sort of for those that may not have had any experience of that, if you were to, give me two paragraphs of Jack Stout, his thoughts on leadership, his thoughts on the EMS industry and profession, what would they be?
I think to summarize, part of what he would say is that we have an obligation, first to patients and secondarily, but close second, to the providers, to do the best we can with what we have, whether that's money, whether that's resources, whether that's time, and to always be using the information available. We would call it data now. In order to learn and improve and grow and constantly be evolving as our patients need us to evolve.
Thank you. That's a beautiful summary. And Mike Taigman, turning to you, and I'm going to give away a podcasting secret here, because when we have the preamble of any podcast, before we start talking, I normally go through with the guests the things we're going to talk about. And I never allow them to answer the question. It's quite simply because of what I call the Taigman rule, right? And the Taigman rule is don't ask someone to answer the question until you've hit record, because that's the best answer they're about to give. So I gave Taigman the Taigman rule before we started, just for full disclosure. So Michael, you've not had a chance to answer these questions. But talking about the fellowship, obviously you've selected Mary. What are you looking for in a candidate to be the Jack Stout Fellow?
Well, one of the things that Jack was masterful at was developing leaders, and many of us, I certainly was fortunate to be kind of taken under his wing and nurtured along. He apparently saw something in me and several people who were leaders in this industry about things that they could do and evolve to become leaders that didn't run systems by accident, but kind of designed systems and really used some scientific and economic principles to make meaningful, measurable improvements to the care and service that we provide in systems. So since Jack isn't with us anymore, we kind of do our best to replicate his approach, and we put together some questions and throw it out to the industry and say, if you're interested in joining, send in an application. And then there's a diverse team of leaders from both inside and outside FirstWatch that we read every single application, all of the answers, and we spend the time to kind of rate who we think would be the best applicant, and then we kind of pool all of our results together and arm wrestle with each other and wrangle information until we come up with who we think is the best applicant. And this year we had several dozen applicants of some incredible folks from all different kinds of places in the country, and it was a unanimous pick among our team that Mary Meeks was this year's rock star, and invited her to be our fellow for this year.
So with that, it's time to formally bring in, welcome, and introduce Mary Meeks. Mary, first of all, congratulations on being this year's Jack Stout Fellow. So interview question number one, tell us about yourself, Mary.
Oh my gosh, tell me about myself. Well, my name is Mary Meeks. I am from Savannah, Georgia. I work for Chatham Emergency Services as a district chief of EMS on night shift. And as anybody who works EMS knows, night shift is the best shift to work. And we have the best night shift to work at Chatham Emergency Services. I've been with the department since 2014. I've been a paramedic for almost 10 years. I started my EMS career here. I got lucky and I landed at a wonderful department that supports and empowers leadership from early in your career at a young age with an eye for inclusivity and excellence. And I've really lucked out. And so far, with the help of my department and Chief Kearns, I've made it this far. So I guess we're maybe doing something right.
Well, that's cool, and we love Chief Kearns. He's a good friend of EMS and has been for some considerable time. And obviously, what caused you to apply? Why did you put pen to paper, finger to keypad?
So I saw an opportunity. I know that my deputy chief had gone to the ambulance service manager course this year, actually. My operations chief the year before that, and I wanted an opportunity to go, and kind of keeping an eye on that relentless pursuit of efficiency. Why would you send one of your district chiefs or battalion chief level leaders to that? And the answer is, well, let's find somebody else to help sponsor this and make it happen. And it kind of fell in my lap. I got an email from EMS One about fellowship opportunities, and I said, I think I kind of meet some of these requirements, and we'll give it a shot and see what happens. And here we are.
Good. Well, Todd and Mike, I can already see the enthusiasm in Mary, and so that gets my vote. So Todd and Mike, what are you going to walk Mary through in this next 12 months of her tenure as your fellow? And where do you see her going?
So there's a path that involves a few different steps, and there's a little bit of create your own adventure that we've kind of started in the process.
An adventure with Taigman? Never.
It's going to be fun.
Good.
So we start off by bringing Mary with us to the Pinnacle EMS conference that you foreshadowed at the beginning of this podcast in Florida, and it is a fully immersive experience. Our Pinnacle process starts Monday morning early, and we do power sessions and evening sessions, and we have the suite open in the evening, and we meet customers for breakfast and all those kinds of things. So Mary is invited to participate in all of that as a member of the FirstWatch family. So it's a full immersion in that process. And then we looked at a couple of other educational opportunities and meeting opportunities, and the one she selected is to do the ambulance service manager program in partnership with Fitch and the American Ambulance Association. We'll be doing that. She's also expressed some interest in the empowerment of women and women leaders in EMS. So we have hooked her up with our medical director, Dr. Sylvia Verdugo, who has plugged into many of those different areas, as are Todd and I, to help introduce her from that perspective. And Mary and I have started the conversation about kind of what project she might like to work on in her own workplace throughout the course of this year that we can support her with. And they're a FirstWatch customer, so we've got their data and a number of triggers and those kinds of things set up. So it really allows us to say, is there something meaningful and measurable in the system that can be improved under Mary's stewardship, where she gets to learn the improvement science and all those aspects of thinking through turning data into measurable, meaningful action that she'll do over the course of the year. And if we do it well, we'll have something for her to be able to write up and articles maybe for EMS One and present at Pinnacle next year in 2025.
That's wonderful. And actually, you just segued beautifully. And if you go into the back catalogue of EMS One-Stop, you will see a show or two ago, I sat down with Carly Strong and Danielle Thomas, two very, very strong female leaders here in California. And listening to what they had to say, I thought it was masterful and insightful. And I commend that we all go back. And of course, links in the show notes. Todd, a few months ago, you and I had the chance to actually be the question master at the AAA conference where you did a session on stock boy to chief executive to owner. And that was you, right? You were that guy in the stock room. And, you really had a chance to master that people-centered leadership, which is one of the things you look for in the Jack Stout Fellow. So without, recreating our whole hour-long session, how do you establish people-centered leadership?
Well, I mean, I think the key to it is to really care. I think people in EMS and public safety in general have really strong BS detectors, and so if you're just pretending to care to be a good leader, it's not going to work. And I think that I sort of grew up that way, and this will sound like a little bit of a deviation, but I think it will make sense. When my dad won the one of his lifetime achievement awards, but the one from Fitch and Associates at Pinnacle, and I had the really pleasure to hang out with him because he wasn't doing all that well physically and was a little bit worried about how his brain would work. And the award itself was wonderful. The ceremony was wonderful. What was even more wonderful was there were probably 30 people who stopped me as individuals, or stopped Dad and I as individuals, and would say something like, when I was in school, I did a project and I reached out to everybody who was writing in EMS or had written in EMS recently and for advice or for input on my project or whatever else. And you were the only person I heard from. And it was a phone call that lasted 6 hours. It was just super common that's what would happen. And he did it so often, he didn't remember the individual people, but taking the time to spend with individuals to help them succeed just pays off. And many of these people were people that are chiefs, they're running huge organizations, making a big difference in the world. And I tell people I sort of stumbled on this approach to caring about patients and people and trying to do the right things because I happen to like people. But I think if I were just a greedy, entrepreneur, I would probably still try to do it because it actually works. People care. They work harder when they care. They work harder when they know why they're working. They work harder when they feel appreciated and when they can contribute. And it's a better system when all those smart people are coming up with answers and solutions and suggestions to make things better. So it's, I feel really lucky to have sort of stumbled on it. And now there's been a lot of work in the literature on servant leadership and all kinds of ways that people have recognized that doing the right thing actually pays off. And I think it especially pays off in EMS.
Wonderful. Well, I'm excited for you, Mary, just to be in amongst, just Todd and Mike and others that are coming on. And we'll carry on this conversation in a second. But first, let's just have a word from our sponsor.
Lexipol empowers first responders and public servants to best meet the needs of their residents safely and responsibly. Serving more than 2 million public safety and government professionals in over 8,000 agencies and municipalities, Lexipol offers a range of solutions that includes policies, training, behavioral health resources, news and analysis, and grant assistance services for law enforcement, fire and rescue, EMS, local government, and other agencies dedicated to public safety. To learn more, visit lexipol.com. That's LEXIPOL.com.
Thank you very much for that, Reed. That was, of course, the voice of Jim Dudley, who is the presenter of Policing Matters over on Police One. And even if you're not a cop, there's some amazing discussion, some amazing guests from the spectrum of public safety that appear on the Police One show. So go over and do that. Don't forget, though, that we're not only on Apple Podcasts, we're also on YouTube. So make sure you please like and subscribe, whether you're listening to us on your phone, hit the little check mark. That means that you've liked and subscribed, or of course, hit subscribe on YouTube, because that means that every time an episode of EMS One-Stop drops, you will be notified. Also, and I always say this, the advantage of watching on YouTube is that you get to see our smiling faces, and you get to see any graphics, illustrations, graphs, and charts that we have to show to help tell the story we're telling. And of course, we're telling an amazing story here today. We're talking about the Jack Stout Fellowship. We're going to be able to meet Mary Meeks at Pinnacle from August the 12th to the 16th at Marco Island. And also, I suspect a little bit later at FirstWatch's Collaborate Live. And spoiler alert, we'll talk about that in a minute as well. But Mary, you've heard about Todd's approach to leadership. We've heard from the sage that is Taigman. Okay, now of course you're sitting there wearing a white shirt yourself. You're already in a leadership position. And by the way, I agree, night shift is the best. My night shift supervisors used to say it's the best because you're not around, Rob. There we go. Discuss that one later, perhaps. What's your approach to leadership?
So one of my key approaches to leadership is understanding that hope is not an operational plan. We can't hope that things will work out for the best. We have to make a plan. We have to train. We have to do our level best to account for every possible outcome, whether it's probable or improbable, and prepare our team for the best possible results. And so working under the philosophy that hope is not an operational plan, my key job as a leader is to unleash audacity within my team and help them rise up and be able to make decisions on their own. In the absence of command, they should be able to make sound decisions and lead themselves and become successful. And kind of like looking at a lot of Stout's philosophy for us, at least what I've learned so far, is it seems to be this like relentless pursuit of efficiency for the sake of our patients, for the betterment of our whole system. And when we have all those parts working together, we get the best product. And Todd talked a little bit about how people-centered leadership gets us to that goal. And I completely agree. I'm really lucky at our department where we have great equipment, we have great salaries, we have good benefits. All of those parts to the puzzle are there, which is great. Super, like that's critical because that's now not a concern. It's important. We have to be good stewards of those resources. But because we're playing with good tools, we can now focus truly on what keeps our staff motivated. And we found so far the right recipe seems to be truly open communication between our teams and our field staff at night, my captain and myself. We are constantly in conversation. We utilize different media platforms to meet those goals. That way our team knows we're accessible, we're here for each other, and we have this understanding that no matter what happens from 1800 to 0600 in Chatham County, you are not alone. You don't have to do it alone. You have somebody who will have your back, whether that's a peer level team member, whether that's your leadership team. No matter what, you're never alone. And seems to be the recipe so far in empowering young people to reach excellence and be these confident, passionate providers. And that, come to find out, makes you a better patient caregiver and is better for your patient.
Wow. I want to take the Mary Meeks Fellowship now. That was remarkable.
So I love leadership. This is
fantastic.
I love being a paramedic. I have the best job on earth. It is truly amazing to be able to be the person who potentially helps on the worst day of your life or the first day of your life. I also love delivering babies. My absolute passion project on the side is OB calls. I love it. But most of our job is relatively mundane, and we have to find a way to seek joy and excellence in the mundane, in the seemingly innocuous interactions we have with grandma at 2 a.m. when she invariably falls down again, because every system has those people that we're going to see frequently, and that's okay. because there's comfort for us in routine and there's comfort for them in knowing that we're going to be there every single time, and that's not going to change.
You've just given this podcast the title, I Want to Be There on the First Day or the Worst Day of Your Life. That's very insightful. Mike, I can't wait to be a fly on the wall when you have your mentoring sessions. So question for you then, of course, you are a mentor of global renown. With a subject like Mary Meeks sitting here, what's your approach going to be?
Well, I'm going to follow more than lead. Mary has already got a leadership philosophy, a leadership style. One of our first conversations, she said a little bit sheepishly, she said, I know that, patient-centeredness is important and those kinds of things, but I really believe that the key to that is taking care of your staff. So my approach is really putting staff first, under the theory that if you take really good care of your team, they're going to take really good care of your patients. And I of course mentioned a book that came up. There's a book called The Customer Comes Second, and she'd actually ordered it for herself within like 30 seconds of me mentioning it, which is just the kind of person that she is. But there are so many things that she kind of mentions and has got energy around that aligns with things that we can help build for her. So I mean, Jack Stout was really about designing systems so that the financial incentives, the structural incentives, all of the pieces and processes, the systems of accountability were aligned for the best medicine and the best care and service to be provided to people who are sick and hurt in the community. I mean, that was really his kind of mission in life, was to extract the most care and service possible out of the resources that are available. And Mary has already got energy around that, and she's got interest in Jack's work around public utility model design and some of those factors. So we'll definitely shore her up with that. When you mentioned finding joy just now, I was reminded of our EMS Agenda 2050 when we were doing our roadshow, traveling around the country, doing listening sessions, building the vision for the future of EMS for the next 30 years. One of the things we talked about was asking about providing joy in work, and we got a lot of pushback around that particular topic of people saying, they call it work for a reason. It's not supposed to be joyful, and I fundamentally disagree with that. I think that this work can be intensely joyful and should be. And the Institute for Healthcare Improvement tends to agree with me because they have a whole series of white papers and work and frameworks around assessing joy and increasing joy. And they have found that people who are joyful provide better care. They provide safer care. They're less likely to experience burnout and all the downsides of that themselves. And it actually improves your overall health from an internal perspective and outlook all the way around. So there's no downside to it. And I'm excited to blend with Mary's energy and her trajectory and follow in a way that provides a little bit of resources and ideas to somebody who's already a really intensely curious and hungry learner who cares about the same stuff that we care about, that I care about.
Wow, this is certainly an ode to joy, and there's so many things I've picked up on there that I want to sort of come back on. But one of the things I want to do, though, Todd, is we mentioned Collaborate Live. That's coming up. Hopefully, from what I've just heard, I think Mary is going to be a keynote somewhere in the session. If not, here's my nomination. But talk about what FirstWatch is up to with an amazing conference in an even more magical location.
Yeah, thank you very much. We are meeting the week of the start September 30th and ends October 4th in San Diego. It's our second conference since COVID. We had 3 pre-COVID and then 2 since then. Last year's was great. It was at a regular hotel in the middle of San Diego, and one of the best feedback that we got was that they wish it felt more like San Diego. So this year we're found a hotel that's right on the beach. You literally step out of the session rooms and can walk downstairs onto the beach. And it should be a lot of fun. But it's really, we pull about 120 different folks together that have FirstWatch and share ideas and collaborate and come up with cool stuff. 5% of what FirstWatch does is stuff we thought of, and 95% is what our customers thought of. And they're the best teachers. They're far better than we are at it. So it's a lot of fun to get everybody together. It's a bit like Pinnacle, and that it's a group of people that care, that really work hard, that know they make a difference and take it seriously, but have fun.
Wonderful. And more San Diego than San Diego. We were Mike, Todd, and I, for everyone's benefit, was just at the MSAC conference in Coronado, California. And if you don't know where Coronado is, that's really San Diego, because if you look out of your window, you might be lucky enough to see Navy SEALs running up and down the beach with boats on their heads. So, I mean, that's doesn't get much more San Diego than that. So looking forward to coming back to San Diego for that. So we're talking about the Jack Stout Fellowship. We've been having an amazing discussion with Mary Meeks. Of course, we're all going to be at Pinnacle, August the 12th to the 16th at Marco Island in Florida. We've been there. It's a returning venue, actually, for Pinnacle, Marco. It is an amazing location, and it's a chance to come and take in some amazing education. And also, I think the advantage of conferences like this, and I'm sure conferences like Collaborate, the ability to network and just absorb ideas. And Mike, you must be the master of that. I mean, how important is networking? As much as, I'm not saying don't go to the classes, but the networking is really important.
I train for Pinnacle by training for sleep deprivation, because it's like getting up early in the morning and having a couple of breakfasts with different groups of folks. And we host an open suite in the evenings, which all of you who are listening or attending Pinnacle, you're invited to come. We have drinks and snacks, and some of the most amazing conversations can be had in the corner of the suite late at night, whether you imbibe in alcoholic beverages or not. It is really, really rich, and just kind of capturing all the thoughts and following up on all the connections I make each year. It takes me weeks afterwards, because there's just so much richness that happens at this particular conference. And I don't know what it is, Todd, like half of the people who show up are FirstWatch customers. So there's that, and the rest of them wish they were. It's very much a synergistic effect with all of the different pieces for this meeting.
I've got some amazing memories of your suite, and for those that are watching on YouTube right about now, I'm putting the image up on the screen of some black and whites that I took. Todd mentioned when he had his dad at Pinnacle, and we got the award. And I had one of those afternoons or one of those evenings where I wasn't actually participating in the conversation. I was doing some amazing an amazing level of people watching. And what I was watching is that the people that were circulating into Jack Stout were having conversations, were reminiscing, with some of the things, obviously, that he'd brought in, obviously the effect he'd had on their careers. Our good friend John Washko, I remember listening to John saying, what you'd done for me gave me that start, gave me that push, gave me that mentorship, gave me that inspiration and that inclination to go on. And hopefully, Mary, you're getting inspiration and inclination to go, and of course, we've just heard, we're not going from ground level, you're actually now going up into the cosmos with this. And so it's just exciting to meet you. And what if you left me with a thought about where the leadership is right now and where leadership needs to go right now, what would those thoughts be?
Leadership right now is at this wonderful generational crossroads. And we have found that our team predominantly, again, it goes back to being on night shift. We have mostly young folks. And I love the information we get from, generational brackets, like, AKA you're millennials. I'm full-fledged millennial over here. I have a lot of Gen Z, and there's insight in patterns of behavior. And by understanding that our team asks more of me than I asked of my predecessors, and knowing that they expect to know why. And frankly, if I can't tell them why, I'm doing a bad job of being a leader. Because if I can't break it down and say, this is why this stuff matters, then I don't know why it matters. And if I don't know why, I don't believe it. And then I'm not being authentic and living into that transparency and authenticity that you have to have as a leader. And it's this wonderful balancing act of being accessible, but being removed, being open, but understanding that sometimes you can't give the full story because of, whether it's administrative concerns or privacy. There's things that go into it, but figuring out how to hold all of these parts together is so fascinating. And that's where leadership needs to go forward, is being able to understand that the understanding why is not going anywhere. Gone are the days of, because I'm the chief, that's why. That answer is gone. That's not going to fly. And my team would look at me and laugh and be like, are you serious right now? That's not authentic. That's not who you are. And that's not what we expect from a leader. And so they hold a high standard. And I love that because they challenge me to be consistent every single night and continue to better our system no matter what. And I love that about them.
Wow. I come from the old Army officer school that tactics is no longer the opinion of the senior officer present. In other words, if you have a good idea, you better tell me, because you may have seen something that I haven't seen. You may have seen an approach and an avenue to success that I haven't picked up on. And so I totally agree with everything you said. And also today I was listening in as a member of the audience on a webinar that Mike was leading, and it was on data. But actually, interestingly, in the last part of the webinar session, the speakers talked about the fact of how they need to explain the why. Mike, why do they need to explain the why?
If you don't know where you're going, right, the reason for doing something, it's hard to engage your hearts and minds and your creativity in the work that you're doing. If you don't know what it is you're trying to accomplish, it's really difficult. And you think about resuscitating a patient. If you don't have the image of this person waking up, thinking, talking, walking, and going back and leading their life, all of the CPR and the defibrillation, the airway managements, and all of that kind of stuff, they seem kind of abstract on their own. But if you hold the image of that person being able to go back to their life and live their life, I think your pit crew performance improves, your focus improves, your communication with family improve, and every aspect of it improves and it's an old Stephen Covey second habit of the 7 habits of highly effective people: begin with your end in mind, and have everybody know that you just line everything up. And you decrease your waste because you're not going to be doing stuff that doesn't help you achieve your final objective.
As we were discussing earlier, Mike, always describe the effect at the target end that you wish to achieve.
Right.
We're being philosophical here, Todd. I'm going to have to ask you for a quote. What are your thoughts on this?
Thank you. I think two thoughts popped into my head. One, what Mary described, the young people of today, sounds a lot like how I felt when I was a young person in EMS with the people that I worked with. And maybe I worked in unusual places, but we all expected to know why. We all needed to know why. It made sense. And I'll just wrap it back around to what Mary started off the conversation with, which was, if people understand what you're trying to accomplish and why you're trying to do it, then when something goes awry, when a piece of equipment breaks, when a vehicle breaks down, when a tornado hits, when something else happens, then they can improvise and still be following the right path. Even if it's a different path, they can still be working towards the right goal. And that's where I think EMS people excel. We show up on the scene. There's a patient. You don't have more than a few seconds to stand there and look at them and assess things before somebody says, "Are you going to do something?" And then you just have to start, and then you have to adjust and adapt and improvise and keep doing the right stuff until you're finished with the call. And I think that's why I'm so excited about EMS right now. because I think this industry is really geared well to dealing with the changes coming because of the people inside. And it particularly warms my heart to hear Mary talk about the bulk of her people feel like that, because that's what we need.
Changes indeed are coming, Todd, and thank you for really highlighting that. And Mary, I'm excited now to follow this journey, not only this year, but from what I've just heard in the last 25 minutes, I want to hear presentations. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to see your writing, because I think, you've got an energy and a way of delivering and putting this that people need to hear. And had I been on the panel, gentlemen, she would have been my number one pick, clearly, without a doubt. I'm excited to see where we go with this. And so, sort of by way of wrapping up, Mary, I mean, obviously you're going to be, under the tutelage of Mike and Todd and Dr. Verdugo as well, who you mentioned earlier. And it's one of those ones I always ask someone when I go to a conference, when you come back from the conference, what are you going to be able to deliver back to the folk on the truck or in the classroom or in the hall or wherever? What are you looking forward to taking back to your team?
I think I'm most looking forward to challenging myself to be part of something that I'm not inherently as comfortable with as I would be. I, believe it or not, am a little bit more reserved. Shocking, I know, but the going to Pinnacle in and of itself is a challenge for me. Being in an environment that I'm not used to, I'm not comfortable with necessarily, around a whole bunch of people I've never met before. All of those are huge challenges, and I'm looking forward to challenging my character, challenging my belief sets and what I believe to be true, and finding out how leadership is applied in different departments and across our country and even our international partners. And I'm so excited to come back better than I left and gain. I want to be open to new ideas. That's my biggest thing, is being open to receiving information rather than having my mind made up before I walk in the door. And I'm looking forward to Pinnacle being a chance to kind of refine the path for what we're going to do with the rest of our fellowship. I am passionate about a lot of things, which can be great, but without like consistent focus and direction. We even brought this up on my interview panel. It's like, Mary, you talked about women's advocacy. You also talked about veteran homelessness in Savannah, Georgia. Like, what do you care more about? And it's like, yes. So we got to figure out where our path's going to be, because specificity matters. Being specific matters. Be specific, and the more specific you are, and the more you can dial in and hone in on a goal, I think the better we can achieve it. And so I'm looking forward to being open and seeing exactly where that's going to take me.
Oh, you just reminded me of one of my old Aikido instructors said, hey, you're reasonably bright. You can do absolutely anything you want. You just can't do everything you want at the same time.
Yeah. Yes.
So choose, and you won't make a bad choice, right?
And so, as the former chief operating officer of a large inner city system, the answer, of course, is you become the master of juggling the spinning plates. That's how it works. So you just got to keep going around and keeping them going. But actually, yes, everything is important, and you just got to keep nudging it forward. My old neighbor, Mr. Meldrew, used to say, if you achieve one thing a day, at the end of the year, when you look back, you've achieved 365 things. So, he was a sage in his own garden shed. So there we are. Final thoughts then. Obviously, Mary, we've just heard from you, but Mike, take us home with your final thoughts.
I just I hope that the people listening to this take some inspiration from Mary. I mean, she took a risk and put herself out there to apply for something and landed it. And just the act of applying and the act of putting yourself out and making a decision sets things in motion in your life. So even if you don't get selected as the fellow yourself, it's part of your trajectory. And the reality is, I think any of the four of us on this podcast, if we got that email or that phone call that said, "Hey, you don't know me, but I'm working on this school project or trying to do this thing. Will you help me?" I'm 100% confident that I can volunteer any of the four of us to have that long phone conversation with you and help support you through it, no matter who you are, where you are, or what you're doing. And the reality for me personally is I'm getting to the age where I'm much more likely to consume healthcare than provide it. And all of you listening here, and you particularly, Mary, are going to be leading the systems that are likely to take care of me. And I want you to do a damn good job.
Indeed, and there's a fair chance you're going to get further towards Mike's 2050 than the rest of us. So I second that emotion from Mike. Todd, over to you.
I would just say, yes, thanks, Mary, for applying. I'll also just clarify, it's not like it wasn't a crowded field. It was an intense group. It was hard to rate. A lot of people had a lot of great ideas. It's another reason I'm excited about the state of the industry right now. And it says even more about Mary that she still came out on top of that smart, caring group of EMS professionals.
And actually, it's a good segue into the fact that there is a remarkable amount of mentorship going on in the EMS industry at the moment. And I will just name drop a few that Women in Emergency Services have a mentorship program. NEMT have the Lighthouse Leadership Program, of which I'm honored to be a mentor. I'm also a mentor at the AAA Next program. And so there are others. And so I guess the message I'm leaving everybody with is that if you can find someone or an organization to mentor you, to help you get to where you need to go, and the organization in turn will then benefit from that, please do. And so be on the lookout. I know that the Jack Stout Fellowship will be looking again next year for its next fellow. I know that all of the other programs that I just mentioned are also starting to gear up to get their next sort of cohort of folk to come in and be mentored. So that's really new, and it's really amazing, and it's going on, and it's fantastic to see all these people that are coming through. And as I said, I did a chart at a conference once where I looked at years of birth and then the trajectory towards 2050. And and I said it was a AAA keynote I delivered where I said, okay, stand up if you're going to be there at 2050 looking at this chart. And then the two folk at the back of the room stood up, and I'm like, okay, this is where we need to start training our replacement and possibly our replacement's replacement. And so that I'm delighted to see is going on. And so, Mary, congratulations. Thank you for being amongst us. I'm certainly looking forward to hearing from you again. Todd and Mike, returning guests to EMS One. And if you remember, I actually asked you to do a teaser trailer for me a while ago. I've not used it yet as part of my mid-show ad, which I will do soon. So you'll be appearing in all my programs. So again, thank you very much for joining us. So we've been talking about the Jack Stout Fellowship. We get a chance to meet Mary at Pinnacle, August the 12th to the 16th. 2024, Marco Island, Florida. Links for everything that we talked about, even the two books that Mike mentioned, will be in the show notes, and so you can click through and order those. For the moment, everybody, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us and all your work, Rob.
Thank you very much. So that was another edition of EMS One-Stop. As I say, go back through the back catalogue. We've had some amazing discussions with some amazing people. Most recently, we mentioned Daniel Thomas and Carly Strong. Also, we had a little bit of a chat in the last edition on communicable diseases. Try saying communicable after you've had a couple. With our good friend, Dr. Alex Isaacoff. Go back and look at that. Really important, talking about avian flu. No need to be alarmed, but of course Alex has got all the answers for us there, so go back through the catalogue. So this has been another edition of EMS One-Stop. I've been your host, Rob Lawrence. Thank you to my guests, Mike Taigman, Todd Stout, and Mary Meeks. Until next time, bye for now.